Hey, what is up, everybody? I'm here to give you a movie review. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm here to do it now. Um, and I apologize for kind of slacking off on the videos I said I was going to make. I was really slacking off, and I apologize. I'm hoping that next month I can actually be better about it. Um, I just, I got a little lazy and I got kind of busy with other things, so I apologize for that. So now, let me get to this video. I said I was going to review Split. It was made by. It came out. I don't know if by the time you see this will be the next day. So it came out on January 20th, 2017 in the U.S. And it was directed by, and produced by, and written by M. Night Shyamalan. So obviously you could kind of tell when I was coming into this movie, I wasn't sure if it was going to deliver or not, just because we know his movies are either hit or miss. He made really popular movies earlier in his career, and then the movies in the middle sucked. And then he's recently started to make a comeback and made better movies. So it was kind of like whether or not you weren't sure if he was gonna have a good movies or not, but we found out. So I don't really know how I'm gonna go about this review. I haven't reviewed a movie. I don't even remember the last movie I reviewed. So I'm just gonna kind of say what happened, and afterwards I'll say who was the actors in each movie and everything. So the movie starts off with these girls. I have the names in front of me because I'm just really bad with names. These girls, Clara, I believe it was I think it's just Claire. Claire Benoit, I think that says. I'm laughing because of a joke that I know. Mosa and Casey, and they were at a party. They didn't really say what the party was for. But you see Casey kind of having like a blank stare out the window, and this becomes kind of a reputation. This becomes kind of her reputation. This movie, it's very repetitive, and what happens is they her family's car breaks down, so she can't be picked up, so she's just gonna take the bus home to the party. And Claire didn't want to invite Casey to this party. She was very snobby in the beginning, but the father offered. Claire's father offered to drive her home, and they all get in the car, and you see Claire's father he's putting things in the trunk, and you see the camera inch closer to him, and he says, "Can I help you?" And nothing happens. It just it kind of cuts over to in the car, and Mosa and Claire are in the back watching videos and on their cell phone and everything, and you see Casey just kind of blankly stare out the window, and she looks out the mirror and she sees to-go boxes just laid out on the floor like Claire's father had been attacked by somebody. And then she looks over and she sees somebody in the driver's seat. And she doesn't say anything because I think she's in shock. And Claire says, "Excuse me, sir, I think you have the wrong car." And the guy sprays both girls with some sort of spray that knocks them out. And they're just wiped out. And then Casey is like in shock. She doesn't know what to do, so she goes to get out of the car, and the guy looks over, and he actually was the reason he didn't get knocked out is because he had a protective face mask. I don't know what they call those things, but it's the stuff that doctors and stuff put over the face to prevent germs, and sprays her with it, and she gets knocked out. And he drives away afterwards, and we find out more about this. And this kind of was the kickoff to the movie. Now, when I seen this in the trailer, I originally thought that this wasn't going to happen until later on in the movie, and I'll kind of, as I review the movie more, I'll talk about it. But that's not what ended up happening. So, I always hate this. I hated this scene when I watched it in the trailer, and I don't hate it as much watching it now. But what I hate about it is Casey's reaction. Maybe I'm gonna say I'm just gonna assume that she went into shock, but I still hate it because there's maybe like a 2 minute time period after Claire and Mosa gets knocked out where she does nothing. I thought it was pretty stupid. And when she went to get out of the car, and obviously he looks over, and I just thought that was dumb. I really did. So it kind of shows the intro to it, who made it, and everything. And as this is happening, the guy is taking the three girls, and he's setting them up in his lair. And when Casey comes to, we see Mousy and Mouso and Claire are scared to death. And Casey wakes up, and we see that they're in a little room. They have a bathroom, and there's a flower in the bathroom. There's a flower on the pillow. And they're just spending. They're just and they're locked in the room too. They can't get out, and they're all afraid. They don't know what they're gonna do, and the guy comes in, and he comes in with a chair, and the whole thing is that he's a germaphobe, kind of. He has OCD, so when he takes off the chair, he brushes it off, all the dust, and he sits down in the chair, and he looks at Mosa, and he says, "I choose you." So he grabs her, takes her outside, and Claire tries to tell him to stop, and Casey's just kind of sitting there doing nothing. And we hear something's going on, and then when he puts Marcia back in the room, she says that he danced with me. It was very, I thought it was a pretty good scene. And then the movie continues, and we see Dr. Let me just make sure I got the name right. Dr. Karen Fletcher, and she works with people who have DID. Now, if you don't know what DID stands for, I have it right here. It stands for dissociative identity disorder, which means that you can have people have a ton of different personalities, a ton of different identities, and what else was I gonna say? But yeah, so she well, actually, that's not what happens next. What happens next is I don't know if this happened next, but this does happen early in the movie where it shows all three girls. They announce it on the news, and we see her watching it, and we see that she has a bunch of emails from this guy Barry, and Barry comes in, and he says he's doing fine. He shows all his drawings, and he's actually doing fine. He has a nice job and everything. And we see Barry's doing fine. Barry's, by the way, the guy that took these women. And, she was happy about it. He was asking, a lot of questions, too. If you ever... what would happen if you weren't here anymore? He asks us if she lives alone. And she says that she does, and she would leave the company, but the people that she works with, to somebody else, and he thanks her for caring about her so much, and he was acting really happy. And Barry's a fashionist. He loves fashion, and he also likes artists. He's a fat artist fashion type, and that's kind of about it. And then it kind of shows more of it. She talks about, you know, how she's gonna talk about her lecture um, to a college on via Skype, and you know, she talked about it with her girlfriend a little bit. She's not a lesbian, but I say girlfriend like kind of like a friend thing. And she says, well, and you know, her girlfriend thinks that this is all bull crap, because she believes that people with these personalities can unlock mass potentials in their mind and really create a new world. Um, but her girlfriend doesn't think so, and that's kind of where the movie kind of goes for a little while. Um, and then we see back in Bailey's sanctuary, we see that the girls are still frightened, and Claire's like, you know, why didn't we just jump the guy? You know, we were acting like a bunch of victims, but it's three of us, one of him, and she wants to just jump this guy. The next time Bailey comes in, she wants to completely jump and beat the crap out of him, and we can get out of here. And Casey says that she doesn't think it's a good idea. You know, she talks about how she took Claire talked about how she took karate. She said that's really not going to do anything. You know, I think we need to take a different approach. So she doesn't want to do it. And obviously Marceau and Claire are pretty mad about it. And she's like, why are you doing this now? So then she kind of has like a flashback, and she had one earlier too, where it shows her Casey's father and Casey's uncle, and they were eating dinner, and they were talking about women and stuff, about how they just look at the tatas and everything, and then it shows them, and this is her when she was really young too, and then it shows her shooting her father teaching her to shoot deer, kind of giving her lessons, and he talked about how the female deer are smarter than the bucks, which was a male deer, because they're smarter, and the bucks just kind of wander off during mating season. It's just like, well, I guess girls are smarter than boys, aren't they, Daddy? It was pretty funny, actually. And then we see Barry come in again. Well, no, then they hear somebody outside. And they hear Barry talking to a woman. And they see what woman's clothes on and everything. And he's like, so they think it's someone that's just there. So they ask for help. They call for help. And when Barry walks in, he's in a skirt, he's in a dress, and he like changes into a completely different person. It was actually really cool. And then he says, "Don't worry, he's not well. We made it clear he is not allowed to touch you." And she, she's nicer than Barry was, and I thought it was actually a good scene. And she treats them nicely, saying that you're gonna have good meals and everything. You're gonna have a good life here. So it was kind of she's very peaceful. And then she leaves. And what else happened? What's the next scene after this? Trying to remember what. Oh, and then it shows Dr. Fletcher talking with the school, talking about I'm just gonna kind of say it, the abbreviated version of it, DID, and she talks about what it could be. Like somebody could be writing something with both hands. They could be right hand and left hand, and they could be writing completely other things. One of them can think that they're allergic to bees, and they said that they have mass potential. They could really, strengthen the human mind. It's incredible what they do with each other. She's kind of talking about it, and I thought it was a good scene, and it kind of sets the tone for them, and everybody just thinks that these people are psychos. These people and the patients can't be helped, but otherwise it's proven otherwise, because she thinks that these people could really open the door for the world. And she's not like a mean person. She's actually a really nice old lady, and she's really nice. Then the three girls are sleeping, No, that's not what happened next. What happens is we see Bailey come back in, because we meet and he's back to the way he was, wearing glasses, collared shirt, and he tells the girls to keep the bathroom clean and everything because he's like a germaphobe. He has OCD and everything. And then we see him later on, and um, Casey wakes up, and we see Barry again, and he's dressed up in a jacket, and he's acting like a little kid. He says, my name's Hedwig, and I have Red Sox, which was everyone laughed at in the theater, and he talks about how the two people are very mean to him. Well, no, he says that somebody is coming for them, and he says awful things to people, and he's gonna do awful things to you. And he says that mommy, and he says that Patricia and Dennis can't do anything to stop it. And then Casey kind of has like this idea, saying, "Well, we're here for you. Dennis and Patricia want to hurt you." And he's like, "Wait, why do they want to hurt me?" He's like, "Well, they said, that." And he says, "Well, I know Patricia said I was dumb, but she's just being mean." He's like, "Well, we can help get you out of here." And because he went to leave, and then he says, "Well, okay, but I can get out." But he said he says it's not possible because he made this room safe for you, and then he leaves, and he locks the door and everything. He even said that and this is the same guy too, that he pretended that he snuck away before Dennis and Patricia saw him come in there, and the woman are like, if he made this room safe for us, then there's got to be a way out of here. So they're trying to find a way out, and they find like they can tear a hole kind of through the wall, and there's like an air duct where they can crawl through. So Claire is trying to do that, and Hedwig's trying to break in. He's like, "What are you guys doing? This is mean." So Casey and Mousa hold the door shut. They try to make it so that way he can't get in. And as Claire breaks through, and she tries to break through, and eventually she's able to get through the thing and crawls through the air vent. And then we see, we don't know this is Dennis yet, but this is who it's supposed to be. It's Dennis, which is obviously the same guy. And he tells them to stay in their rooms, and Claire's trying to crawl through the air ducts. She opens another one, and he hears Dennis, and she tries chasing after her, and she hides in the locker, and Dennis comes up and tells her to come out of there, and so she does, and Dennis says, "It was not nice to run away like that." And he says, "I'm trying to be nice here, I've given you everything," and he says that you have received, he says, "I've given you everything." And he even actually, I forgot to mention, Hedwig had mentioned that Dennis was watching Claire and Mousa to Brent for weeks and took them, so he was stalking them. And Dennis says, your shirt's dirty, you take it off. And so she does, and she takes it off, revealing her brow and everything. And then he puts her in a room by herself, and then he says, "You're no longer going to be with this person." And he even screws up the vent so they can't get out, and yeah, it was really good. So then Barry meets with Dr. Fletcher again, and Barry talks about, how things are still going great for him. And he says, "I just made it," and he's been emailing her a bunch of times asking for an appointment too, really late. And she wants to know why. And he says, "Well, I'm just, no, I instantly get nervous, and I think that I need to make an appointment, but everything's fine." And he says, "I wanted to show you these drawings." And then she says, "I don't think you're Barry." Um, and she talks about how Bailey. She talks about how Bailey was brought into the light, as she calls it, and she says, "I think you're Dennis." And we find out that Dennis likes to watch girls naked dancing. So that kind of is the reason why you can see why these girls are here. Um, and she says, stuff about Dennis, and she talks about how since Dennis has OCD, he was switching the chocolate around, and and says that you're not acting like Bailey. And he says, I am Bailey. Like, I have a job, and he tries to prove that he is Bailey by by eating a chocolate thin and put it in his pocket. And he says, I am Bailey. And then she says, my bad. You know how I try to get inside my patient's mind. I apologize. And he's like, it's okay. So then he runs off. And later on in the night, Dr. Fletcher and somebody else that works there running the cameras looks back through the cameras, and he sees Barry leave, but he leaves over the trash, and we see that it's Dennis. And it was the way that Dennis left that made her suspicious, because normally he will walk around the trash. He walked over the trash. So she thinks that Dennis is up to something, which he is. So she's like, what are you up to, Dennis? Then the next scene was Casey and Marcia wake up, and we see Patricia, and she makes lunch for Casey and Marcia. Does Casey's hair really nice, and she says, and she puts a flower in their hair, and she said tonight's a night of celebration, and she says that we're going to celebrate a new life. And she invites them to eat with them, eat a nice fine meal. So they go into the kitchen with their flowers and everything. And obviously, too, by this point, Casey realizes that the only way they're going to get out of here is if one of them lets them out. Casey they both sit down and start eating. They kind of start talking about some random facts about, actually, now that I think about it, that's probably why. They start talking about facts about tigers and facts about deer, and since Casey hunts deer, it worked. And she starts cutting the sandwiches, and as she was doing this, Patricia gets pissed because the sandwich wasn't cut diagonally enough. And then, she says, I'm just going to make another one. So then Mosa wants Casey to just take off, and but Casey refuses, and then Mosa grabs her chair, hits Patricia in the back with the chair, and just takes off running. And Patricia gets pissed, and Casey tries to push the table into her, but she fails, and Patricia tells her to go back into her room, and Mosa is taking off running, but she finds that the other door was locked. And Patricia then comes up and says, I know you weren't born into a great family. And she says, but there was no way for you to run away like that. We've given you nice meals. And she starts crying. So then she locks Mosa in a room by herself. So now all three girls are separated. It just said that it's the best thing to have them separated because they can't seem to behave, which I liked. I liked this scene. And then the next thing that happens is we see Casey. Well, actually, the next thing that happens, I believe there was another scene where they showed that Casey and her father ended up killing a deer. Wasn't really that great of a scene. It was okay. It was kind of filler. It's setting up for something. This whole hunting scene, I didn't really get why they were doing it, but it makes sense later on in the movie. And then Casey is sleeping, and we see Hedwig is there. And she gets up, and she's all freaked out about it at first. He was sleeping with her, which was really creepy. And he says that you lied to me about how Patricia and Dennis hated me. And he's like, it's not nice to lie. And she apologizes. And then he asks if he can kiss. Then he talks about the stuff that he does. He says that he listens to a bunch of music. He always dances, and he listens to Kanye West all the time, which I thought was funny. And he says, he listens to him dance. He's like, "Could I come watch you dance sometime?" And he says, "Yeah, but I don't know if you can because Patricia and Dennis will probably be mad at me." And he says that he does it by a window, which is why she's interested and wanted to do this. And she says, "Okay." And Hedwig even says that he never had his first kiss, and they actually have like a little bit of a kiss. Well, they don't really kiss. They don't really lock lips, but he thinks that he kisses her, and then he has a funny line where he says, "You might be pregnant now," which I thought was hilarious, because Hedwig doesn't know about how to make a baby since even in his mind he's 9 years old, um, and then Hedwig, so Casey wants to go in his room, and Hedwig thinks that she's trying to lie to him and be cruel to him. But Casey's like, "I can tell you something about myself, and you can tell me whether or not I'm lying." And he says, "Okay." And she says, "Sometimes I get detention on purpose, so that way I can be alone, away from everybody." And then he's like, "Oh." So then he leaves, and he's like, "I'll talk to you later." So obviously we know where this is going. What else happened next? I'm trying to remember what the next scene was. I believe then it shows Bailey with Dr. Fletcher, and that she's trying to prove that this is Dennis that she's talking to. And she says sometimes people don't let you come into the light. There's a certain path that they have to go through. And he says that maybe Dennis is trying to protect Kevin, because this is the guy's real name, is Kevin. And she wants Dennis to come forward, to talk to her. And she even talks about the story, about the time where Barry was at work, and a couple of teenage girls had him touch their breasts, and it really hurt his feelings because they were, and it was just girls pretending. But then he becomes Dennis. Like, he instantly changes. Kevin changes to Dennis. And he says that he wants to prove that there is a living beast inside of him. That's what they've been trying to do. Now him and Patricia control who can come to the light and who can't come to the light, which I think what I means coming to the light is be able to come into the world. So, and Barry had lost that power, was what I'm getting at. So, Patricia wants Dennis to tell him what he's planning, but he says that there's a beast coming, and it's something far worse. And he says that he needs to defeat this beast, because this beast is the worst thing you've ever seen. So then she asks, are you trying to say that there's a 20... She's trying to say that this beast doesn't exist. But she doesn't think that it does. So this kind of sets up the ending of the movie. So he's like, no, there is a beast, and he's going to be really bad. So I thought that was a really good scene. It starts to set the tone for the movie. And then Hedwig, the next scene is Hedwig comes into Casey's room, and says, and invites her to come to his room and watch him dance. So she does, and he dances. It was actually really funny the way he was dancing. And then she starts getting confused, and she says, "I'm confused." At first he doesn't think she liked it. He's like, "No, I liked it, but I'm confused. You said this was next to a window." And he's like, "Oh, it is." And he's like, "Here it is." And it's just a drawing of a window. And he's like, "One closed, one open." And then he says, "Did you think it was a real window? Did you think it was just so you could escape?" And she starts getting upset. She wants Hedwig to help her get out of here. And she's like, "I can't do that. I'll get in trouble." He says, "Well, you said you were going to show me something really cool. Show me something." And then they're all upset. And Hedwig shows her a radio. Like a walkie-talkie that I guess Dennis stole from the police. He says that he took this from Dennis, and Dennis doesn't even know that he has it. And she says, well, let's see if it works. So she turns it on. It says, sometimes I listen to people, so we can hear like the police talking. Um, and Hedwig says, no, you can't be doing this. Turn it off. I don't want Dennis to know I'm using it. So then Patricia speaks into it and tries to ask for help. Tries to say, hey, I'm being murdered. Try to find me. My name's Casey. And Hedwig gets upset. So she hits Hedwig with the radio, but keeps asking for help. But the police think this is just a prank. Somebody just stole the radio and is pranking and is messing with the police. And Hedwig and Casey have a struggle, and she hits him with a baseball bat. And Casey says, you better hurry because he's going to kill me in hours. And the police then doesn't respond. And then Hedwig becomes Dennis. And he's like, hello. And then the police finally responds and he says, hello, are you there? And then Dennis takes the not the remote, what's it called? Walkie-talkie, turns it off, and puts her in her room. And actually, no, he doesn't become Patricia. He doesn't become Dennis. He becomes Patricia. And she sends her to a room, and Patricia says Dennis is going to be here shortly to explain what this night's all about. And Casey takes, when Patricia leaves, Casey takes a screw that Dennis hadn't screwed in, and she grabs it, hides it in her pocket, and then Dennis comes in and says that there's a beast coming and you need to kill it because it's going to do bad things to you. You know, says that that's why you guys have been brought here, to defeat this beast. That's why we needed you guys. I needed you guys. And I thought that was a really good scene. And then the movie kind of like gets really good in a minute. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if this scene happened already, but there was also another scene. It might have been in this scene where Casey was still on that hunting trip with her father and her uncle wanted her to pretend to be an animal, and he took all his clothes off, and she's like, I'm pretending to be a bear, you pretend to be something, and was pretty much supposed to assume that he molested her. So that was interesting. And then there's another scene where she has a shotgun and she's gonna shoot her uncle with it. It's like, you wouldn't do this to your uncle, would you? And I guess I didn't really know it was her uncle at first. I thought it was like one of her dad's friends, but it's her uncle. And he says, don't do that to your uncle, give me the gun. And then he takes the gun and he's like, you're gonna shoot me, weren't you? And I thought that was a really good scene. And it made me realize, it becomes more and more noticeable why Casey is the way she is, you know. Because normally people that get molested are very quiet. They don't really, they instantly become changed from it. And that's kind of where what happened with Casey. That's why she was always kind of looking out the window. She probably has some serious PTSD from it, I would assume. And then it shows Dennis pretending to be Barry emailing Dr. Fletcher. And Dr. Fletcher gets these emails, and then she shows up at Dennis's lair. Kevin's lair. And Dennis is the one out there, and she says that, and the guy tries to say this is closing hours, so we're supposed to assume this is a real place. Because why I just assumed this was just an abandoned factory he took him to, but they do more with this later. And she wants to talk to Dennis about what happened. And Dennis talks about, you know, they go into his lair, and this was when it was getting really good because he was in the lair where the girls were, and Dennis was talking about how this monster is a strong monster. He is taller than me and stronger, and I'm the tallest and stronger one out of all of them, and we need to unleash this beast. So then Dr. Fletcher says, so is there another personality arriving? And he says yes, and it's the worst beast that you can ever imagine. And he says the world will know and the world will understand what great power that comes from this beast. And he says that he's trying to hurt Kevin, he's trying to hurt everybody else. And he says that Kevin is weak. Kevin can't handle this beast, and that's why we've locked Kevin up. And then Dr. Fletcher gets suspicious, and she's like, well, I thank you for telling me about this stuff, Dennis. So thank you for being really open. And she says, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to take notes about this in our session tomorrow. And he says, do you mind if I use the bathroom? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So then she goes to the bathroom, and she sees the door's locked, and she opens the door, and then she sees Claire, and she gets really distraught, and he says, you weren't supposed to, and then Dennis comes in, he says, you want, she's here for a purpose, and and then Dr. Fletcher says, look, you don't need to be, doing this. These girls are suffering. This is very, very bad behavior. What are you trying to accomplish from this? And he says, your methods weren't working to get this beast. And he says that these girls are here to defeat the beast. And Dr. Fletcher says there's other ways to handle this, Dennis. And then Dennis knocks out Dr. Fletcher, with the spray from the beginning of the movie, and knocks her completely out, takes her to somewhere in the lair, and he says this just has to happen. And it seems like he didn't want to do it. He didn't really have any other choice, because he says we have to go talk to people about this. He's like, I got to get out of here. So then it kind of leads to this big sequence where Kevin is roaming around, buying flowers, and Claire wants to get out of here, and she has, I forgot her name already. She has Mosa grab something so that way they can unlock the door. It shows Casey trying to get out, and Kevin then changes. He changes into this beast. He becomes a really strong, really tall. It was awesome. And Marcel is trying to open the lock with the door, and I'm not gonna lie, this dragged out forever. It seemed like it just went on, and I get they were trying to hype up the build up for it, but it just seemed like it kind of just went on and on and on. Then Dennis becomes this beast. Kevin becomes this beast, and the police are informed about it. It's like, I heard it's some sort of coyote or something. And Dr. Fletcher starts to come too. She writes something down on a piece of paper, and then we see the beast come in. I forget the beast's name, actually. And Dr. Fletcher tries to grab a knife, and the beast grabs Dr. Fletcher. And Dr. Fletcher tries to stab the beast with the knife, but the knife, since he's so strong, breaks into a million pieces in her hand, and she gets upset. And the beast literally crushes all the bones of Dr. Fletcher and kills her. I thought this was a great scene. And she says, thank you for trying to help us all. So then the beast leaves, and Casey, as this was happening too, was found Kevin's computer, and his different personalities had made videos talking about this beast that was coming. And when she clicks on the one with Barry, and finds that where the keys were hidden behind the hood, and she finds the keys, she unlocks the door, tries to run off, and she tries to get Mouser so she can escape so she can save her and escape, but Mouser's been killed. And then she tries to get Claire, and Claire gets dragged by the beast. And when Casey goes in there to check on her and try to save her, we see that the Beast is eating Claire, because they had mentioned that the Beast eats. They mentioned that the humans were gonna get fed, so that's what the Beast was. And Casey tries to escape, and the Beast chases after her. So she locks the room, and she finds the note that Dr. Fletcher wrote, and it says to say Kevin's full name. So the Beast comes in, and Casey starts saying Kevin's full name, and we see a flashback from the Beast, and it shows Kevin's mom. I'm assuming it's like his mom saying his name, and I'm assuming she abused Kevin, which brought out these different personalities, because that's how they say these personalities brought out, because they suffer such great abuse as kid at a young age. That's where these personalities come from, or something tragic in their lives. So then the Beast becomes Kevin, and Kevin's actually a really nice guy, and he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't even know. He sees that Dr. Fletcher's dead, and he asks, "What is it? Still September 18th, 2014?" And she says no. And she asks who killed Dr. Fletcher, and Casey says you did. So Kevin wants Casey to grab a gun, and he tells her where it is and shoot him. He wants to die. And then he starts to become these multiple personalities, multiple identities. And he says not to kill him. The Beast is unleashed, and then Kevin becomes the Beast again. And she tries to say Kevin's name again, but the Beast says that Kevin is now locked away. He's now asleep for a while. Now he's hiding underneath. These personalities have put Kevin to sleep. So she runs off. She unlocks the door and everything, and she tries to escape. And she walks behind this cage, and the Beast grabs Casey and tries to eat her. She eats part of her leg. The Beast eats part of her leg, and I didn't even mention too, the Beast can walk on walls as well, because they mentioned that the Beast could walk on walls. And Casey's trying to escape though, and she gets into a dead end, and Casey then starts having a flashback of that moment when she's at her father's grave, and we see her uncle come up and says, "It's a shame your dad had to pass away from a heart attack." But he says, "But don't worry, your uncle's going to look after you." So now we know why Casey doesn't want to be with anybody. Why she? Because they had mentioned in the beginning of the movie that she always is running away from home. It's because she doesn't want to be around her uncle that's molested her. And I'm assuming that her uncle is the only family she really has, because we don't know anything about her mom or anybody else. It's probably just her and her uncle, but they didn't really give us that type of information, which I kind of don't like. So the Beast is crawling up the wall and takes out a bunch of lights, so that way Casey probably won't be able to see him. So then Casey finds a door, locks herself in a cage, and the Beast says that he's indestructible. He isn't human. He even broke the lock off a door when Casey had locked it. He's strong. So he's like, you could try to shoot me, because he was trying to shoot the Beast, but it wouldn't. But she kept missing. She's like, you could shoot me. Kevin's a human, but I'm a Beast. And Casey tries to shoots the Beast twice in the shoulder, and it has pretty much no effect on the Beast. And the Beast says that they're here to control the world. And then she sees that the Beast has injured Casey, and she's taking all this injuries. Like, you must be something pure. You must be something more. Because we've done all this damage to you, and you don't seem to be fazed by it. So then the Beast leaves Casey alone, and we see Casey just sitting there afterwards. Now, I thought what was going to happen, she's like, you seem like a different person. I thought she was going to have a multiple person. I thought she was going to end up having DID. Which would have been just a complete, what's it called? I don't want to say split, but it would have been which would have came out of nowhere, which would have been shocking. But that's not what happened. So she just stands there, and we see the maintenance guy come in, and he sees Casey there, and he says, "Let me get you out of here," and he takes her to safety, and we find out that the that Kevin's lair was underneath and it was in a maintenance building in the bottom, in the basement, in the zoo. Because we see tigers, elephants, monkeys, and everything, and it was really weird. It was actually kind of out of nowhere, and Casey's being saved. She gets strapped up. Everybody's talking about it. Then the police tell Casey that her uncle's here, and Casey just kind of looks over, and we don't really hear much from Casey. And then Kevin, or the Beast, whoever this is having like a conversation with Dennis, and Hedwig are having a full-on conversation. And Hedwig even had mentioned that he had taken Barry's spot as who can decide who can and can't be brought over to the light. And they were having like a full-on conversation. And then at the end, we find out that they talk about Kevin, talk about where he is, and they don't even know if he's alive. And then the person says, didn't we know somebody like that? And he says, yeah, Mr. Walker. Because it's someone from a wheelchair, and the joke was it was supposed to be somebody from M. Night Shyamalan's movie. And then the movie ends. That was the end of Split. Now, I thought this movie was really good. I enjoyed it. There was definitely its moments where it drags on. I definitely thought it was going to have a little bit of a faster pace just because of the fact that the girls got taken early in the movie, but it didn't happen. But I liked the story with Casey. I thought she was a good character in this movie. I thought the actor that played Kevin and all his personalities, I thought he did a really good job playing that character. Dr. Fletcher was a good character. And this movie was just a great movie. A really good movie, I should say. And it was just, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was really good. And it was just like, kind of shows like, that M. Night Shyamalan can produce good movies. I thought there was kind of some moments where the camera was really shaky, which I didn't care for, but other than that, I thought this was a really good movie, and I hope they make a second one, because it seems like they're going to, just because with the way they ended this movie, you can't not make a sequel, and it did really well in the theaters tonight. The theater was pretty much packed, and there was almost everybody in there, and I thought it was like a really good movie. If I had to rate it, I'd probably rate it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good. Now, before I end off the video, let me go through the actors and actresses that played these characters in the movie. So, James, and if I can't say the last names, I apologize. McAvoy played Kevin Wendell Crumb, and also, the people with the billions of personalities. Ann Taylor-Joy played Casey Cook. Betty Buckley played Dr. Karen Fletcher. Haley Lou Richardson played Claire Benoit. I believe that's what that says. Jessica Sula played Mousa. Brad William Hank played John, which was Casey's abusive uncle. Sebastian Silas, I don't know how to say that last name, played Mr. Cook, which was Casey's father. Neil Huff played Mr. Benoit, which was Claire's father. Kim Director, I think is how you say that, played Hannah. I legit do not remember who that is. Lynn Renee played academic moderator. And Bruce Willis played David Dunn. I don't remember who David Dunn is in this movie. I believe he was the guy that was controlling the camera. But yeah, overall, that was the end of the movie. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Now, I hope you guys didn't watch. Don't get mad at me because I spoiled the movie for you. You really should have watched the movie before you watched this review. So really, you just did this to yourselves. And overall, I hope, like I said, I hope I can make more videos. I apologize for slacking. Sometimes that happens. But that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and my CM Brothers channel for all your content. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.